Welcome to episode number 43. Today we talk about 5-minute meetings, hiring, and playing the long game.
When you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A car salesman.
Said no one ever.
Hi, I'm Patrick Hennessy.
And I'm Courtney Hennessy.
Welcome to the Be Less Typical in Car Sales podcast, a real-life account of the car business that breaks the perception of what it's like to be a car sales professional. During the show, we're going to take you into the lives and minds of those that have found success. So ignite your passion and get ready to learn effective hacks to streamline your success and boost your income.
So is that your pitch?
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Sales on steroids when you're selling cars. It's a high speed, high volume type of atmosphere, and that's what I really wanted. It's what I thrive at. And so I thought, why not give it a try? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Before Josh Mitchell got into the car business, that's the perspective he had. Sales on steroids is a great description. He viewed it as an opportunity to flex his selling muscles and see where it could lead.
And any doubts he might have had about it not working out are long forgotten. The dealership he works for, Dan Cummins Chevrolet, has increased its sales output 5 times since Josh came on board in 2011. He says it's due in part to the team that's in place and the culture that ownership has instilled.
Culture has been a fairly regular topic on this show recently. The more time Patrick and I spend talking about it, the more we realize exactly how important of a role it plays in the success of everyone involved.
It seems like many, if not all of the top performers and less typical guests we come across either operate or work for a company that has clearly defined values and strong leadership that promotes positive growth.
This almost always starts from the top, as is the case for Josh.
The ownership put the people in place. They empowered us to make decisions that, they normally would have, but now they've empowered us to make those decisions for them and with them. And I think that's, they instilled that vision of what they want the dealership to be, and they continue to change that vision. They share it with us, and we know exactly where we're going and where we want to go. It's not like, the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. They're very involved, dealer principals, and, they want our opinion, and they want us to grow together.
And because ownership communicates and empowers their managers, the managers in turn lead their employees in the same way. That's a very big piece to instilling a company-wide belief system.
Josh briefly explains his journey within the dealership and his role today.
I am the BDC director. I manage 10 BDC sales consultants. We've grown that department from when I started in 2011. We had 1, and I was actually on the sales floor at that time. And then shortly after, about 3 months into selling cars, they thought, well, he knows internet. He's young. He's a millennial. Barely, but I'm still a millennial, I think. And maybe he can do internet sales. So I was kind of apprehensive at first. I didn't really want to go in there. I was having a good month. It was like the 5th of the month. I had 9 cars out. I was killing it. And they kind of persuaded me to come over to the internet department, and from that, we just started building upon it. I was the second person. I took over in 2014 as the BDC manager, and, just kind of continue to build that department into what it is now with 10 reps and taking like 2,500 internet leads and phone leads into creating the mayhem that happens here every day.
His 10 BDC reps have the responsibility of responding and cultivating leads until they schedule the appointment. From there, they turn the client over to the sales floor to complete the transaction.
This is a fairly traditional setup. What isn't traditional, although fits in the line of cultural thinking the dealership promotes, is the people that Josh hires for the BDC role.
I've pulled a lot of people from the service industry, waiters, waitresses. I've pulled a lot of people from that because they're people. I mean, they like people, they like talking to people. And so we've had a really good success with sourcing some people from there. I do use Indeed for my sourcing. And I've had a lot of people. I don't grow old car salespeople. I don't look for people who are in the car business at all. I find people that have done maybe a little bit of sales or maybe not any sales at all that are just going to be a good fit. You don't have to have the sales side for me to hire you. I want to find good people that are going to do everything they can to do the right thing for the company and the customer. And so that doesn't mean that I go out and try to find that hot shot. It's just I go for good people first, and I can teach you everything afterwards.
Josh would much rather be hands-on and train his inexperienced new hires than the alternative, having to keep his eye on the hot shots, as he calls them.
He also spends a significant amount of time with each employee in an effort to understand what it is that motivates them the most. Something most managers know they should be doing, but most likely are not. His reasoning is pretty convincing.
Having a conversation with, what's the most important thing? It's not always money. I know everybody in the car business or sales, cringe when you hear that. It's not all about money, guys. That's not everything that motivates everybody. And yeah, a good portion of people that are in sales, money motivates, but not every single one of them. And so I've had heart-to-hearts with my people. I have 5-minute meetings with my people. At least, I call them 5-minute meetings. They end up being 15 or 20 sometimes. But every month, I have a meeting with my team individually, and I find out what's going on with them. We talk about their numbers, but I learn what's important to them. If it's time with family, if it's time away from here, if it's money, if it's whatever it is, whatever they're passionate about, I try to make sure I know it so that I can push them towards that and make sure that they take that certain amount of time off, to make sure they leave and go see their kids, to make sure they're pushing themselves as hard as they can to make every bit of money they possibly can make. And if they want to be in a management position, to put them in place to be able to do that. I know that sounds, a lot of managers don't want to do that because they're managers, but a good leader wants to push his team to be the next. I don't want to ever leave here, but I want my role to grow. And so I can't let I can't grow my leadership and my role if no one else can take my place.
So these meetings give him an opportunity to help develop leadership skills within his people, something that's very important to him personally. At one point in his career, he remembers venting about a fear he had when leaving for vacation. The response he got from his manager was surprising, that if the wheels fell off while he was gone, then he should be fired, because if that was the case, he hadn't been doing his job.
Since then, Josh has clearly taken that sentiment to heart.
Number one, you have to be able to take vacation and time off and different things with conferences and different things. And you have to have your team to be able to function if you're not going to be there at certain times and not fall apart. And when he told me that and I thought about it a lot, I started, giving my team a little more responsibility in what I expected out of them. And, of course, when the boss is away, they'll play a little bit, but they don't play as much as they used to. They know that, they don't want to get that text message from me saying, we've only got X amount of appointments. What the heck's going on? And so they know that I'm constantly watching and I'm constantly kind of looking in. And so that expectation level is there for them. So I can take a breather and go to Digital Dealer and not think about the dealership, not think about anything, and everything flowed just perfectly while I was gone because I set that expectation and they know what's expected of them throughout, so I don't have to worry about it anymore.
A big challenge that Josh is addressing now lies in how fast and hard his team runs in comparison to the other departments within the dealership. When your BDC is pumping through 2,500 leads a month, then the sales department, F&I and Specialify, the office, etc., all have to be able to handle that amount of productivity along with the ebbs and flows of the business.
If I'm going 160 miles an hour, if my department's going 160 miles an hour, I can't slow down to 35.
Specifically, there are challenges when it comes to online shoppers.
I really think that it's a virtual showroom. That person's sitting at their house or sitting wherever waiting on answers just as much as a customer in your showroom is waiting on answers. They're just as important. And some people don't feel that way, even though that's the way it is. People like to shop online. They like to get answers as quick as possible. And if you can't, they move on.
This is a fact at many stores. People in the showroom or on the phone even take precedence over a virtual shopper. This means that whether it's a product, pricing, rate, or availability question, the online buyer needs the same urgency of response that you would provide someone standing directly in front of you.
Maybe this wasn't always true, but today it definitely is. If you aren't prompt and engaged with a prospective lead, you are going to lose it. I think this falls under the radar in so many stores because it's so much easier for a manager to see a customer stand up and leave when they're actually in the showroom.
That manager would certainly ask the sales consultant, what happened? But how many times a day are you dropping the ball on a live customer online? Harder to notice, so they're more likely to slip through the cracks.
A specific instance where this becomes very obvious is when a deal gets into finance. Customers in the showroom will typically get first attention, while an internet deal gets pushed back.
And I think that's one of the things that I've been dealing with here recently is the speed of which we run, and sometimes we run into the problems of the speed of a finance department not willing to dive in deep because they're in over their head on certain things because they have so much business coming in that it's become a problem. But what happens is I have a customer waiting an hour for an answer or 2 hours for an answer.
And that's just unacceptable. Most of the time, it's not the finance department's fault. There's a lot of pressure on F&I, especially when they have customers sitting in the showroom waiting, versus those that you can't see who aren't pacing outside your door.
This is more of a structure problem, meaning that a given dealership might not be staffed appropriately to handle every application in a timely manner. In one of my previous roles, I managed an internet team. Our structure was a little bit different than Josh's in that we handled the lead from cradle to grave. However, we ran into this same type of issue with the finance department. We overcame the lag time and overall obstacle by hiring a designated F&I manager for our department. This increased our application or approval turn time, customer satisfaction, and the team's productivity.
I'd say this could be considered an industry problem as well. A case where because dealers have structured the sales process flow a certain way for so long, they're extremely slow to adapt to changing customer needs.
Josh has been speaking up about this very topic in recent months. He was asked to host a session at the last digital dealer, and he seized the opportunity to talk about what he titled as Stop Thinking Like a Dealer and More Like a Customer.
Just look at your customer and look through their eyes and how you like to be treated when you go to, any type of store like Apple or anything like that. And think about how you want to be treated, how you want your process to happen.
After you gather some thoughts on how you like to be treated, look inside the store and at the processes you put customers through.
And that's where you have to start looking at. Like, map out all the crap that goes on that you don't like as a customer, and map out all the stuff that you do that you know your customer doesn't like, and get rid of it. It's as simple as that.
That goes for all departments. Not an easy task to take on, but I think we can all agree that it's overdue. We spend so much time on why we do it this way, which usually revolves around our needs, instead of asking why not, and considering a different approach that better serves our customers' needs.
And process improvements aren't the only thing we should be looking at. According to Josh, we also need to look at our people and how we structure them as well. Pay plans, training, and even who we're hiring are just the starting point.
So many BDCs are underpaid because they feel that they're just hiring, nothing more than a higher class receptionist, and they treat them that way. And it's a wrong way. It's your first impression for your customers, and being able to deliver information in a fast way and deliver the right information. When a customer has a question, being able to answer it, an educated mind. And so it's a different type of customer that we're dealing with now.
And outside of the BDC?
And then your showroom side, it's an extension of your virtual showroom. And you have to continue to go down that information-based selling where you're providing information to the customer. The pushy salesman is gone, and he should be gone because he's caused so many bad reviews and so many problems that if you provide enough information for someone to make a decision, then you've sold them.
I feel like we've been hearing that from guests on this show a lot lately. Providing information and helping customers make buying decisions is the new definition of selling. A good way to start implementing this change is to have your sales and BDC answer the phone like this. Thank you for calling Dan Cummins Chevrolet. My name is Patrick Hennessy. What information can I provide you with today?
It isn't easy to dig in and change a process, let alone many. It isn't easy to restructure your staff on the sales floor. It isn't easy to retrain managers how to recruit, interview, and hire people that are cultural fits. But according to Josh, those that do will reap the benefits. And those that don't?
It's not going to end up paying you in the long run. And too many people look at the short game and play that short-term type of game and will be out of the business when times get tough. Those who play the long game, who put their customers in good situations, who put customers in leases and different things that are going on right now that are so much better than they used to be, set themselves up for success later on. And while everybody else is crying and whining the blues, those people are never going to see that part of the business.
But for Josh, at least, it all comes back to the support he gets from ownership and the complete buy-in that every manager has for the cause.
I'm going to do everything I can to help these guys build their company and help them, and they help me, and they back me, and they support me 100%. And that means a lot to me, and it means a lot to them. To know that I've got their back and they've got my back, and we all have each other's backs. And, having that, it makes it easy for us to go out here and break record after record after record.
And those records are staggering.
Because they never thought that when they took over in 2011 that they would go from 130, 150 cars a month to selling 850.
Yep, you heard that right. 150 in 2011 to 850 now.
That's a great spot to pause and summarize the points Josh has laid out, just in case you were only sort of paying attention until you heard that number.
If you manage people, make sure you're spending time with them individually at least once a month.
This helps you come to understand what motivates them personally and allows for time for you to instill company values and culture into their behaviors.
Don't be afraid to source for new hires in non-traditional places. Other service businesses are a good start.
If you're willing to get hands-on when training, automotive experience isn't necessary.
Be sure you're treating virtual shoppers the same way you would treat someone that was inside the dealership.
The showroom of today expands beyond your four walls, and the virtual space is an extension of your physical building.
Your processes should be customer-centric inside the store and virtually.
When you identify pain points, fix them. Although you may not feel the full impact of those shortcomings today, the day is coming when your long-term success will hinge upon the changes you make right now.
One other point that Josh brings up that we all need to keep in mind.
Stay humble first. I don't ever think that I'm the biggest, baddest, no one can touch me leader in my business. I feel that I have a lot of room to grow. I've grown a lot over these few years, but I'm nowhere near where I'm going to be. And, to stay humble is, never think just because you sold 30 cars one month that you're going to automatically do that the next. And so if you stay humble and continue just that grind, it's going to be there for you.
Nothing is ever guaranteed, but the efforts you put in will pay off.
A last thought from Josh for you leaders and dealers.
I think with dealers, think about your culture and how you treat your employees. It is one of the single most important thing to really look at what your culture is and how you want it to go about. Treating your employees like crap on a Saturday morning, then patting them on the ass and telling them to get to work and go sell cars, it's going to be a horrible way to start their day. And so just think about, building your employees up and building an environment to where you can trust them while you're gone and that they're going to do everything that they can for you as a leader because they don't want to let you down. And you as a leader, you don't want to let them down. So you go and do everything you can. And when you build that type of culture where everybody's doing everything they can for the customer and for each employee, all of a sudden you create a monster of a business that when the downturn happens, you're not affected by it because you've built a reputation with your customers. You've built a reputation with your employees that is hands down the best out there.
True for everyone that has a stake in the success of a business. We all have a role to play.
A special thank you to Josh Mitchell for being a guest on the show. For all episode show notes, go to belesstypical.com/043. Be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode.
Our theme song is by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder, while episode editing and mixing is done by us, a couple of amateurs learning as we go.
Show notes, our newsletter, and episode graphics were created by the always amazing Amy Gers, our featured guest from episode number 1.
2 items before we sign off. Number 1, please take a moment to share our show with your friends, family, and coworkers.